My name is Darin Mano. I'm the District 5 representative on the City Council.
Can you tell me, kind of walk me through your journey with COVID yourself?
So as a council, we went on a trip to Washington, D.C., and that was just kind of the week before everything broke out in the United States. And we flew home, and just kind of that night that I got home, I started to feel a little cough. And it wasn't painful, it wasn't too bad. And then a day or so later, I started to feel fever and flu-like symptoms, body aches, kind of typical flu things. Maybe 24 hours, it was bad enough that I didn't work and I was in bed, but for the most part, it was really pretty mild. Then the flu went away, and throughout this whole time, I had been trying to get a test, and what didn't qualify for tests, that was before Utah had a lot of tests available, so it was really difficult to qualify for a test. The flu went away, and the cough just lingered for about a week. And it was at that time, after about a week of that I finally qualified for a test and was able to get one. The test came back positive, and about that time, the shortness of breath started, and that lasted for 2 or 3 days, maybe even less. And after that, I felt fine. So
Can you talk to me about what the process of testing was like, and what you know about how that's changed since those early days when you were tested, which seems weird that early days would be just a couple of months ago and things have changed so drastically.
So I called, there was a hotline. I called, University of Utah had a hotline, and the health department had a hotline, I believe. Called both of them, and they asked basically the same questions. And at the time, Washington, D.C. was not on their list of places that qualified you as testing. And I hadn't been in direct contact with anyone known to have tested positive. So even though I had several symptoms that were compatible with COVID-19, they didn't have enough tests at that time. It was actually when Congressman Ben McAdams announced that he had tested positive that I was able to then answer yes to that question and qualify for a test. And the test, I did it through the University of Utah, and it came back quite quick. It was, I think, 24 hours when the results came back and were positive. So telehealth visits with providers, and the only in-person thing was the test itself. And I used a drive-through testing center in Sugar House back when I was tested for it.
Did the county health department put you through their contact tracing process, and what was that like?
Yeah, they did. So once I was tested positive, then a nurse from the health department was assigned to my case, and called me every 2 days or so, check up on the symptoms. But the first thing that they did was ask you kind of everywhere you've been. And luckily, after coming home from Washington, D.C., the only place I had been was the grocery store once. And like two people knocked on my door. And other than that, I hadn't been in contact with anybody. So it was pretty simple.
What message do you have for your constituents that are concerned? Like, how is social distancing working? What message do you have about that? Wearing masks, things like that.
I mean, social distance, I think, is working in Utah. We haven't seen a spike. The state did just move to orange, which means more businesses are open and people can gather in groups of 20. And to be honest, that does worry me a little bit, that we're going to see a spike in the next week or so, because people are more out and about and moving. I understand that the warmer temperatures sort of help combat that a bit, and I hope that works, and I hope we don't see a spike. But I think it is important still, until we have a vaccine and until we know more about this virus, for us all to take it seriously, stay distant from each other. I hope we can stay socially connected but physically distant. Meetings like this on Zoom, electronic correspondence is, I think, the name of the game for a little bit. I think just because the state's moved to orange, I want to stress that we still need to be careful that everyone's stay socially distant. There are people like my own mother, who is suffering from cancer, who it's kind of my responsibility to make sure she's safe. So I think it's important for us all to take it really serious. I think my biggest message is just that we are all to a certain degree responsible for each other's health. And so let's just take that seriously. As you're out and about doing your things, it doesn't hurt to put a mask on. It doesn't hurt to stay a little bit more distant from each other. I think for the most part, we're at a place where a lot of our business can continue. I think there are a lot of business owners who really are struggling right now, and we absolutely have to keep that in mind. But a lot of things that we can do that are small that don't get in the way, like putting a mask on. We all just needed to make that normal and do that every day. And that's not just for your own health; it's for the health of everybody else and the people that can't. There's a lot of people that can't socially distance with their jobs, or people who for whom if they were to get the the virus, it would almost certainly be a death sentence. So for all of those people, the people like me and Councilmember Dugan, who we're lucky, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're not spreading it. So.
Can you talk to me about the measures the city council has taken to make sure that A, city business continues to happen, and B, to make it as accessible as possible and keeping everyone safe at the same time?
Yeah, so a huge shout out to the city council staff who's very quickly figured out a system for online meetings. So we're using WebEx, and people can join from their computer. They can call. They can also watch streamed through, I think, Facebook Live and SLC TV and the sort of normal channels that the meeting is streamed on. We're also taking in-person comments through that WebEx platform, sort of live comments, but anyone can always email council comments at slcgov.com or email individual council members and get us your feedback and input on any of the decisions we're making. The budget season's just starting, so we're having all the normal sort of department budget briefings during those meetings. So everything's still continuing for the most part.
For residents who want to learn more about what the council's doing and what the city is doing as far as COVID related issues, where would you send them to get more information?
The mayor's website has a lot of great resources and links to other agencies and other government's resources. So that's a great place. Also, we have a briefing every council meeting at the beginning of the briefing for the ever since we've been doing council meetings this way. The mayor's given us a briefing on her responses to the emergency declarations. We did just extend on Tuesday the emergency declaration for another month at least. So we do still consider ourselves to be in a state of emergency, and we're getting those briefings every week.